This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? Your weekend has now officially started. You are very welcome along to Friday night's late night agenda. We started a little bit earlier this evening because I wasn't able to put out a news video this afternoon, so we had plenty to go through. So I wanted to make sure I could jump on in good time to give you an update as much as possible. So the poll question that we're kicking off with tonight is based off a story that's been doing the rounds in Spain from El Nacional, and it said that Liverpool are prepared to pay the full €95 million release clause for Athletic Club Bilbao's Nico Williams, viewing him as a potential replacement for Mohamed Salah. Spurs are also ready to make a major move for the Spanish international despite his injury-hit season. And the question that I asked tonight for the poll is, would you be happy with Nico Williams coming in to be the long-term Mohamed Salah replacement? For me, honestly, I think we could have better options. He wouldn't be top of my list. And he is a player I like. I've spoken before about my admiration for Nico Williams, but I do think if I'm tiering it and I'm giving you a list, he's probably not in the top three, to be honest. And he's certainly below Michael Elise, who is the dream target. There has been more talk, of course, about Mohamed Salah's future. And I seen the comment that one of the moderators deleted just before we went live from somebody saying Salah's going nowhere. Well, I wish that was the case. I really do. But the stories and the media and the travel here looks like it is headed towards Mohamed Salah maybe departing in the summer. And we'll discuss that tonight as well. So, get me Diamonde, said Lewis. He's certainly a credible option, Yan Diamonde. Signed with Rock Nation Sports, I believe, last week in a change of agency. So that looks like he's probably preparing for a summer move. But we've seen the price tags, and honestly, the price tags for Yan Diamonde are ridiculous. You're talking upwards of €100 million already. So, yeah, I don't know about that one. But so Paul Joyce has said, interest from the Saudi Pro League and Mohamed Salah is likely to rear its head again this summer, with Al Ittihad seeking high-profile recruits. Now, this story hasn't gone away, and there's Peter O'Rourke as well saying Liverpool are set to be open to letting Mohamed Salah leave this summer, as he will have just 1 year left on his contract. But this kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. Now, I'm not saying Peter O'Rourke's right or wrong about whether the club are open to letting Salah go this year. But they say because he has 1 year left on his contract, like, this wasn't a surprise. You know, like, we didn't know Mohamed Salah was going to have a year left on his contract at the end of this season, that all of a sudden it's dawned on Liverpool and they're open to it. Look, I'm going to try to interpret that to you as honestly as I can. I feel like, as a Red, Liverpool have seen that this season hasn't been the same Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah has seen that this season hasn't been the same Liverpool. And I just get the feeling now Liverpool think it's time to cash in. That would be how I would guess this subject. Now, of course, people are going to deny that at the club. People are going to come out and say that this is just purely because the player's open to the move. But I don't believe it, in all honesty. I think Liverpool would be quite happy to recoup some money from Mohamed Salah, particularly after maybe a season that hasn't seen him hit the heights of seasons before. Again, not saying that's right or wrong. Everybody will have their own opinion. And for me, I think Mohamed Salah's future should be decided by Mohamed Salah, who's earned that right. So let's wait and see what happens with it. But yeah, like I've said, over the past week, it really does start to feel more and more like we will maybe see Mohamed Salah depart this summer. And all I've said is, as fans, it would be good to know that before the season ended, because, of course, everybody would want to give him as good a send-off as possible, as he deserves, of course, as well. That meme guy said also it's a massive £400,000 off the wage books. Yeah, there's no denying that either, mate. That's what, 20 million quid just for the course of 1 year. Just over 20 million quid for 1 year. So that is a hefty saving, yes. And look, Mo Chathra and others will speak to the financial impact and how Liverpool are able to, again, adjust the figures to amortise a new signing across. And these are things that are just above my pay grade. So, yeah, I think he made the part this summer. And look, it's a tough one because some fans will feel it probably is the right time. Others may still want another year of Mo. Where am I on this one? Do you know what? Honestly, I'm going to say sell him this summer, and I'm going to try my best to explain why. It's not just because maybe he's underperformed this year. It's again because of the staggered change. So I've mentioned this a few times. At the end of this season, Mohamed Salah, Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk all have a year to go. And I don't want to try to replace those three in 1 year. Now, of course, we've already brought in Georgie Marmadarsvili, who could be Alisson's long-term replacement. But I don't want Liverpool to have to go in one summer, lose Mohamed Salah, lose Virgil van Dijk, lose Alisson Becker, and then be kind of trying to find leadership. I'd rather Liverpool staggered it over a couple of seasons, meaning if Mo left this summer, then again, we could bring in a replacement, we could see how that replacement gets on, and then we could look at the Virgil van Dijk situation, the Alisson Becker situation, trying to, losing all of those three in one summer. It'd be a heavy heart for Liverpool fans, wouldn't it, to say goodbye to the three of them in one mad summer. I've actually got the feeling we'll go for a right back and Frimpong will go right wing as a backup, said Lewis. Tough to know. They definitely have a decision to make, Lewis, in the right back position. Not because of the quality of either of our right backs, because of the injury situation and how that just keeps rearing its ugly head. So, yeah, I don't know what the club will do with that regard. Connor Bradley only signed a new contract last summer. So, would you be already looking to move him on after giving him those reassurances that, he is the heir apparent? But it's not the club's fault if he keeps getting injured either, nor is it Connor Bradley's fault. It's just unfortunate. So, yeah, lots and lots and lots for us to go through over the next 90 minutes. Chad said, sorry if this is off topic. Do you think Frimpong, Canade, Vividi and Kirkes are all the day one backline for next season? It's impossible to say because Canade, his contract is up. So at this moment in time, we don't know where Canade is going to be. We could be looking at Van Dijk and Xhaka. We could be looking at Van Dijk and Leone. So yeah, I don't know. But right back wise, Frimpong probably yes. Kirkes definitely yes. But yeah, I don't know about the Canade situation, Chad. That's the only one that I'd really have an uncertainty with. We discussed this yesterday as well, and we still have hope that he will sign the new deal. Virgil was speaking about how late his own contract went. So yeah, here's one for you though. Here's one for you. And at the start of the season, when Nick Voltmatter was scoring for Newcastle, they were very quick to, gloat about it a little bit and talk about, Isak being injured and not available and all the other stuff that we had to deal with from Newcastle. Well, Footy Insider have said this: Newcastle United will prioritise the signing of a striker in the summer, with the club already looking to sell Germany 23-year-old international Nick Voltmatter following his club record move in August. Newcastle fans have begun to get frustrated with Voltmatter as he finds himself in the middle of a run of 13 games without a goal. But I thought they were the supery dupersty fans, the super duper, trooper, cooper, booper, tooper, whatever. I thought they were supposed to be the super fans. I thought we were the bad ones. They welcome the club record signing, hasn't scored in 13 games and they want him out already. That's not very supportive there, is it? For a player who's still in his first season at the club and settling in. I wouldn't even judge Nick Voltmatter from an opposition standpoint inside his first year at a club, but apparently Newcastle fans have already had enough. And here's the thing. They can talk about selling him all they want, right? And they can talk about going out and replacing them. But Newcastle look like they're going to have no European football next season. So, are they going to have the money or the ability to attract those players in? Sandro Tonali most likely going to want to push for a move away in the summer as well. And I get the feeling from the outside, and I am on the outside, of course, that this Newcastle project is having a little bit of a wobble. You know, there's even been talk about Eddie Howe's future. Dave said, Craig, I want the Monday, maybe a poll later. Yeah, absolutely, no probs. Remind me when we finish this one, Dave, to stick up the Andy Monday poll, and I assume it is Yandy Monday you're on about, not Usman the Monday, because you know centre back's a whole other conversation. Owen Football, how are you, Owen? Said, do you think we qualify for the Champions League next season? I do, mate. Yeah, I'm feeling a bit more confident about it now. I will still say what I always say, and just scraping into the Champions League, you know, it's not a great season with regard to the league only. But I'm feeling confident now, yeah. If we hadn't have beaten Sunderland or even a draw there, I probably would have been a bit more cagey about it. But the fact that we've got a run of games that looks decent now, and we'll run through the fixtures for you now just in case you hadn't seen who Liverpool's next league games were against. So it's Nottingham Forest away, and of course they'll have Vita Pereira in by that point. So that's next Sunday. Then we've got West Ham at home in the Prem, Wolves away, and Spurs at home. And of course they've just got a new interim manager on board there as well. So yeah, those look like winnable fixtures, and you would hope 10 to 12 points from those over the course of the next 4 league games. So, you know, if we were to do that, I would say Chelsea, Manchester United will be dropping points. We have a hell of a run in from May as well, so we want to be getting points on the board now nice and early. But yeah, I do think we'll make it. If we had a loss to Sunderland, I really, really, really would have been panicking. But there was something about that Sunderland performance that, and I'm not getting carried away with one win, but it felt more... We felt sturdier, steelier, more focused, more like ourselves. I want to run through some really interesting numbers around set pieces tonight as well. Sky Sports did a really good article on asking, are Liverpool now the new set piece kings from an attacking perspective? And it might sound outlandish, but the numbers actually bear out the fact that Liverpool have had a huge improvement from attacking set pieces in particular. Oh, this is absolutely true, mate. Absolutely true. Very tricky to cut the cord at the right time with legends like Salah and Verge. I'm sure Liverpool will leave it to Mo. Like Stevie G, Mo will make the right decision. Yeah, it's really tough. It is. It's really tough because, you know, do you go with your heart? Do you go with your head? As fans, we never want legends to go. We'd like them to, you know, be forever 28 and stay at the club for eternity. But as you've said, it is knowing when to say goodbye and when it's best for both parties. Last season, I mean, can you imagine if we had have lost Mo at the end of last season and we had the season that we're having now? Oh man, the what ifs would have been through the roof. Like, what if we had kept Mo? What would Mo have been able to fire us further up the league table? So I feel like he definitely earned that contract that he got at the end of last season. But this season, you know, I agree. It should be his decision. It should be his decision. And if he wants to try the Saudi Pro League, cool. But here's the thing. I've no problem with Mo wanting to maybe go to the MLS or go to the Saudi Pro League. But if he wants to stay in Europe and he wants to still try to compete to win the Champions League and big prizes in Europe, I'd rather he stayed with us to try to do it. I'd rather we kept him on board, you know. But if he does want a new chapter in his career and something outside of Europe, cool. Let's, you know, make it happen for him. But yeah, I'm really struggling with this one because I've said many, many times on the channel, I thought when he signed that deal we'd see the 2 years. We'd see him and Virgil see out their 2 years. But Virgil's season, obviously, he's the captain and he's starting to play himself into a bit of form. But I don't know where Salah's head would be at with it. It's, you know, I'd be guessing to say. Did we cool on Elise? I haven't followed him. No, we haven't cooled on him. It's just very difficult to get him out of Bayern Munich. You're talking. You won't. I don't think you'll get him this summer. In all honesty, if you're going for Elise, I think one more year at a minimum at Bayern Munich before you'd really have a chance, if you have a chance to go in to get him. You know, we talked about this previously. Amazingly, if you left it one more year and brought in Elise, he'd still only be 25, which feels really mad to say, Chad, excuse me, because, you know, it feels like he's been around. We've seen him in the Prem. Obviously now he's over at Bayern Munich playing Champions League football, going to the World Cup with France. But to think that he'd still only be 25 when Mo's contract will be up in 2027 is it's nuts. You know, I had to double check that when I first looked at the age profile of him because I couldn't believe he was still that young. Thanks so much for replying to my comment. Hey, no, thank you, Owen, for being in here with us, mate. I appreciate you. Like I said last night, I love these quiet evenings where we don't have 3, 4, 5,000 in the chat because we can have a proper chat and really, really get stuck in, and I can answer as many comments as possible. Gecko is cool. Said back on the conversation of Upamecano yesterday, he actually re-signed to Bayern. Yeah, I seen that. I seen that today. You're right, till 2030, as you pointed out. So yeah, that's one that we can definitely say is done and dusted. That is officially signed and announced by Bayern Munich the day Upamecano was there now till 2030. And honestly, I'm kind of relieved. I've said it many times. I feel like when when those two RB Leipzig centre-back came up, we got the right one in Canada, and I still think we got the better of the two. So never really wanted to lose Canada and bringing up a Meccano because it doesn't feel like a step forward. That's my take on it anyway. Have you spoken with Lee Gunner since yesterday? No, I know I said that I was going to drop him a message, but time got away from me last night, and Sabrina had an injury in her elbow, so she was at the doctors and stuff today. So, bit of a busy one behind the scenes. Hence, I wasn't able to do a video earlier on. So, no, I haven't had a chance, but I will make sure to check in with Lee this weekend to see where his head's at, because no doubt he was frustrated with that performance yesterday from Arsenal. Thundercats Litterbox, without a doubt, one of my favourite user account names, mate. Without a doubt. We need to go 3-5-2. Our team is set up for the system with a couple of centre-back signings. How else do we get Isak and Ekitike on the pitch at the same time? Now, on Isak, he's doing a little bit of ball work. I'm sure you've probably seen that today at the AXA. There's some images of him out there on the grass doing little bits of ball work. Now, I don't know when he's going to be back. It was only last month that he really stopped using the, I don't want to say Zimmer frame, but walking frame. So, again, not trying to say expect him the next week or two, but he was out there on the grass today. You can check out the club website yourself to see a couple of images of it. And, yeah, it'd be great to welcome him back. Now, to get on to the formation aspect, I've total agreement with you. We need 2 more centre-backs. But if you look at the system, the system you're talking about, 3-5-2, we absolutely have the personnel for it. On either side of our full-backs, both of them could play as wing-backs, no problem. We know about the lack of depth at centre-back, so if we brought in enough there, and look, I don't know what the managerial situation is going to be in the summer, but for argument's sake, if Alonso came in and he wanted to play with that system, well, then it would just be a case of us having to get the centre-backs in. We have everything else needed for the system. Of course, we'd probably want another wide player anyway, because we're a bit short in that department, but it would be less of a change than it would have been maybe a year ago with the personnel that we had. Why did somebody delete Yasir's comment asking about my mental health? Just out of curiosity, was it spammed, or did you just not want? Did you think it was somebody overstepping? I'll answer your question, Yasir. How's my mental health? It's okay. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'm certainly in a better place than I was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm all right. Chugging along, still trying to get back to my 100% self, but I've had a lot of physical injuries as well that I was dealing with. I nerve damage in my shoulder, which has caused me quite a bit of pain, which has knock-on effects. It just makes you feel tired. So yeah, I'm all right. No, I've no problem with anybody ever checking in on my mental health or asking about it. It's a conversation I'm always happy to have. That meme guy said, hope Frimpong can get past his injuries because it's becoming a problem. I don't know if I'm as worried about Frimpong as I am about Bradley's injuries. Maybe it's because we've got, as Liverpool fans, we've seen Conor Bradley around longer and had more of the injury setbacks to see. With Frimpong, if I'm not mistaken, he wasn't very injury prone. If my memory's right, at Leverkusen, he didn't have a terrible injury record. So not really sure if he's just been unlucky this year, Jeremy Frimpong. But with Bradley, look, Arna said on umpteen occasions that nobody has any qualms really with the quality of Conor Bradley, but he just hasn't been able to string together, a couple of months in a row without picking up a knock. Don't know if it's a growing thing, don't know if it's an age thing, or don't know if it's just somebody whose bodies can't deal with the rigours of Premier League footy. I hope it's a growing pains thing or something like that, or a growth spurt thing, because he's a really good footballer, and I love those two options at right back. So yeah, I'm going to just apologise to Yasir because Frank deleted the comment trying to protect me and trying to be nice, which is absolutely no problem. But I'm fine, Frank, with that type of question, mate. I talk about mental health quite a bit, and if anybody ever wants to inquire about mine, I'm happy to answer it. But I appreciate you looking out for me as well, Frank. But it's all good, right? There was something I seen there. Frimpong had a brilliant injury record at Leverkusen, said Josh Starkey. Thank you, Josh. Somebody else said something about NICO. Where was it? I think somebody wrote, where was the comment about NICO? I think somebody said NICO isn't all that great or something like that. Yeah, I seem to have lost the comments. Oh, there it is. NICO was bad, to be fair, said Rob. I wouldn't say bad, but he's definitely not the finished article. And he's got lots of raw talent, but just, I don't know. I'm probably a little bit less keen on Nico Williams as I would have been maybe a year ago. There's definitely talent there. There really clearly is, but he's already on a very high wage, as a lot of the big players at Athletic Club Bilbao are, because of course they don't really pay transfer fees. So they usually try to keep their best players by, paying them a competitive wage. So you'd be bringing in him for a big transfer fee, which is what, 95 million euro, it says is the release clause. And then you'd be paying him immediately. He'd want about 250 a week. So, Liverpool don't tend to do that with young players that they bring in on their first contracts. He'd probably have been on about 100 grand a week less than that ideally. So that makes me think no to the Nico Williams one. It makes me think it's not very Michael Edwards-ish in the wage department. So yeah, I wouldn't expect it personally. So we have had 1,000 votes on the poll. So we said, would you be happy if we signed 95 million euro Nico Williams to replace Salah? 50% of people said yes, 31% of people said no, and 19% of people were unsure. I'd probably go into the unsure camp on that one. I'd have to have a look at more data and certainly a few other bits and pieces, but off the top of my head, yeah. Right, let's do it a different way. So, 1 second. Right, so pick one for us to replace to sign to replace Salah. So we'll go Diamonde. We will go Williams. We will go Elise. I need one more name, folks. Give me one more name of a good winger who you wouldn't mind seeing brought in, or you want in the conversation here. So we've got Yan Diamonde, Nico Williams, Michael Elise. I need one more name. Mastantuono is a great show. Mastantuono is more of a number 10, isn't he? I know maybe at Madrid he's playing in a wider position, but I don't think he's ready to come to Liverpool. And I don't expect us to do business with Real Madrid. As I keep saying, we don't really buy players off them. Let me just check in this one, though. Yildiz was a belter of a show. Right, so there's the four options. Pick one to bring in to replace Mohamed Salah. Diamonde, Williams, Elise, or Yildiz. So Somebody said he just extended. Honestly, in Italy, I wouldn't worry too much about a player just extending, because honestly, the way Italian football is and the finances are, I think every player has a price. Even if Yildiz has stayed on Juventus or signed an extension, I would still say there's a price that he could be gotten for. Barcola, yeah. Do you know what? Sorry, I'm going to delete the poll and I'm going to go again, because I should have put Barcola in it instead of Nico Williams. So apologies on that one. I'll start it again. I don't think... I'm going to leave Elise out, because I don't think Elise is going to be a realistic option this summer. And that's when we're talking potentially about replacing him. And what was the other option that somebody just said there? What was the other one I forgot? Oh yeah, Barcola. Cool. So, there's 4 for you. I left out Elise, because I don't think he's going to be realistic this summer to be gotten. I just don't think there's a way we get him. Leao he's not good enough, is the honest answer on Rafa Leao. And I will die on that hill. He isn't good enough. He's too inconsistent. And yeah, just ask Milan fans how they feel about Rafa Leao. Forgive me, why wouldn't Elise be an option? They won't sell. They won't sell, mate. They don't need to sell financially. He's happy and settled there. It's a World Cup summer as well, so he'll be away with France. And then after that, we'd have to have an extended break. So it just doesn't really make sense for us as a signing to try and bet him in, or for them to sell this summer. At least for me, I just don't think it's realistic. If he was realistic and if it was possible, man, I'd be all over it. But I really just don't think, based off a lot of the reporting and my own bit of information from Germany, that there's any chance Bayern would sell him this summer. What about Rodrigo? You'd have to imagine if we wanted Rodrigo, we would have done it. And again, you're talking about somebody there who's probably going to be wanting the higher end of the wage bill immediately. Yeah, I just don't think Rodrigo makes financial sense for Liverpool. You're talking about probably a very big transfer fee and certainly big wages. And again, I'm going to just come back to the same thing. When's the last time you've seen Liverpool buy a player from Real Madrid? It doesn't tend to happen. We don't really do business with them with regards to bringing in players from them for a fee. Adeyemi from Dortmund. A little bit, there's, how do I say this respectfully? Look into his antics off the pitch, Adeyemi, and some of the stuff he's been kind of caught up in, for want of a better phrase. I didn't know about it until somebody told me recently, and I went and had a little read up on it. So yeah, that would be no. Craig, no left footer on your list. Absolutely no problem with that. I know we're all mad for inverted wingers, but I don't really give a shit whether a winger's inverted or not. I know the modern trend is to have an inverted winger, but we need somebody who can probably play across both sides. And this is why, by the way, I'm frustrated we didn't go for Semenyo. Because Semenyo is naturally a two-footed player, as you're going to see. Could play off either flank. And I just feel like that's one that probably we let go. Mane's an interesting one. I want to talk about young Mane, actually. Thank you for bringing him up, because there's a report here from Jack Lusby, who I think writes for This Is Anfield. And Jack said that Liverpool are interested in Wolves attacking midfielder Matheus Mane. No guarantee of a summer move for the 18-year-old, but the club have strong relationship with the player's agency. Current players Weatherly Lucky and Fola and Anuga, both clients with the same agency as Matheus Mane. So keep an eye on that one, but as they say, no guarantee for the summer. But he is a player that we should be keeping an eye on. There is absolutely no hope on this planet Liverpool signed Kavisha Kvaratskhelia. He's gone to PSG because that's where he wanted to go. And yeah, that's where he wanted to be at. And he won't be leaving them anytime soon to go to Liverpool. So that's one we can put in the not achievable bucket. But it's a fair point you made about the left back, the left footed situation. I mean, it is a fair point, and honestly, I didn't even think that the four of those. I didn't even stop to think whether one of them was left footed or not. I just put in names I'd seen us linked with. But it's a more than fair point you bring up, especially if you are looking to replace Salah. So here's a question, right? Do you expect the club to just bring in one wide player? So if Salah leaves, do you think we're going to just get one wide player and then Rio in the future will be the other option on the other side? Or do you think we dip our toes in the market to get an out-and-out right winger and an out-and-out left winger? Because we definitely need another viable, young, pacey attacking option. We need two. Said Gecko's cool. A winger who crosses the ball will 100% benefit Isak in the future. It works at Newcastle. Yes, on one, said Ben. If we get Enrique, what players would you love to come with him to Liverpool? Oh, mate, look, if you could go and start cherry picking from PSG, there'd be a few in there. I wouldn't mind having a little look at Vitinha, Barcola, Doué. I mean, I wouldn't have said no to Kavisha Kvaratskhelia, but I just don't think, there's any chance of getting him out of there. The only one I would say no, you can keep him with is Dembele. No thank you on that one. But plenty of other good players. William Pacho, wouldn't say no to him if he was available from a centre-back perspective. But yeah, I again just don't think it's possible. And I think he'll sign a new deal with Paris Saint-Germain, although I've said it many times, he would be my number one target if we had to find a new coach. What about Yildiz? He's on the list. I've got Williams, Yildiz, Diamande and Barcola on the poll question there for you. With a pacey winger, it can unlock Liverpool's attack. Definitely. Look, I've said this so many times. The joys of a pacey winger are multiple. We always talk about a low block. Well, a pacey winger can cause problems. Running at defenders, winning free kicks, maybe getting you a penalty, getting a full back booked. Then they can't challenge you. There's so many things that not having a winger that really can get the ball down and run at people properly, that I think we're losing out on. And especially if we're becoming more proficient in set pieces, which we are from an attacking perspective, I think having a young pacey winger there will be interesting. Now, I want to read you through a piece that I spoke about at the start of the stream that Sky Sports did. And it gives you some information on how far Liverpool have come from set pieces, but also an interesting change in tact and the growing influence of in-swinging corners across the Premier League over the last 6 seasons. So, this piece starts off with, prior to last month's defeat to Bournemouth, when they scored the first of 3 recent goals from corners, Liverpool had the lowest percentage of in-swinging corner deliveries in the Premier League at 49.4%, well below the Premier League average of about 70%. In the 4 games since, Liverpool's percentage has shot up to 82.5%, with 28 over 34 corners against Bournemouth, Newcastle, Manchester City and Sunderland having been in-swingers. Now, I spoke about this on the watch-along. I said, I'm liking that we're packing the 6-yard box, and I'm liking that we're putting the balls right in there on top of the goalkeepers, because that's chaos. And all you need is a little nick, a little flick, anything can happen. So Liverpool's corner comparison, they show here Premier League this season before and after the Bournemouth game on January 24th. So before the Bournemouth game, Liverpool played 22 games, had 117 corners and scored 1 goal. 1 goal in 117 corners. Since that, we've played 4 games, had 34 corners and scored 3 goals from corners. The percentage of short corners is at 8%. In-swinging corners, 82.5%. Liverpool have really, really started to look at those in-swinging corners. You've seen Mohamed Salah has been putting them right on the money. And then they show corners into the 6-yard box and that they're on the rise season on season in the Premier League. So this is the Premier League's last 6 seasons per game, the amount of corners that go into the 6-yard box. In 2021-22, it was 2.92 corners per game were put into the 6-yard box. 21-22, 3.3. 22-23, 3.32. 23-24, 3.88. 24-25, 4.22. And this season, 25-26, 4.72 corners in every game are hitting the 6-yard box. Now, this was a tactic, obviously, you would have noticed Arsenal doing quite a lot. You know, late men running from the back post to the front post or from the edge of the box into the 6-yard box. It's a really good bit of analysis. Definitely worth the read if you want to go onto the Sky Sports website and have a look at it. And it goes into far more detail than I can really explain here. And they show you some clips and some really good examples. For instance, the first corner we played against Sunderland the other night, I think it was, we didn't have the in-swinging corner. And then it showed the rest of them where we were packing that 6-yard box. And of course, we know Virgil's goal came from one of those in-swinging corners. Chad said, can we go steal another winger from Newcastle? It was so much fun last summer. Well, who are we looking at? Anthony Gordon. I think that ship has sailed. And every time I brought up Anthony Gordon's name over the last couple of years, it's been pretty strong that people don't want them to come. So no, I would say we can just sit back maybe, Chad, and watch the Sandro Tonali incident this winter, or this summer, unwind, and then we can get our kicks that way. Because I really do think Newcastle fans are going to be in for a tough summer transfer window again. Two goals, Craig. I'm counting Virgil's against City. Well, the stats don't. So, you know, I can only give you what the stats are saying. And I'm sure that these are taken from Opta or something like that. Jeff Porter said, I'd 100% take Gordon. Mate, we, was it last summer? No, the summer before last, when he was away with England at the Euros, and that deal looked close. It was crazy how divided Liverpool fans were. I was in the would have no problem signing him camp, because I thought there was more to come. And he's a Liverpool fan, deep down as well. But I also understood maybe why others felt that there were better options out there. And he's had a few injuries over the last season, if my memory's right as well. As long as Gakpo's on the bench, I don't care who we sign. Now, on Gakpo, right? Let's have a conversation about Cody Gakpo. Because I'm struggling here. As a fan, I'm struggling to feel, am I being pulled into the conversation about Gakpo? Or am I being too generous to Gakpo? Because I don't have the same level of frustration with Gakpo as other fans seem to have. I understand where you're coming from on it, but I just think we've always had that lack of options, but we had Diaz. So if it wasn't working one way, we had a different type of winger, whereas now we don't. We're either putting Wirtz out there onto the left, or we're playing with Cody Gakpo. And if Cody Gakpo isn't doing it, I think the frustration comes from the lack of options. So I don't know if Cody's gotten any worse than previous years, or if we just are used to having other options and those other options aren't there. And that frustration is adding to people's frustration with Cody Gakpo. Because every season there's one. There's one player that, I don't want to say is scapegoated, because there's usually a grain of truth to it, but there's one player that is vocally less supported than others, and this season it's 100% Cody Gakpo. And I don't know if I'm right or wrong on it, and that's genuinely it, because I don't feel the same level of frustration as others do, but maybe I'm missing something. You know, maybe I am letting him away with it, because as historically he showed up with numbers of goals and assists every year. Because I'll always agree to say that he's a little bit lacking in dynamism. Or I don't want to say one-dimensional, because again, I think that's unfair. But I do think he's a little bit limited in what he can do as a wide player. Whereas if you have somebody, who can really get the ball down and run at people more than he tends to, I can understand why a manager likes him. He seems very tactically aware. Obviously decent from a defensive standpoint as well, helps out. Got decent heading ability as well. So yeah, I just don't think I'm as wound up by him as others seem to be this season. Paul Driscoll said, I don't have a problem with Cody. I think it's more of a tactical and positional thing that stifles his creativity and end product. So there's one really good example that we've spoken about time after time on here, and it's been brought up by me, it's been brought up by people in the chat, but it's the difference when Gakpo plays with Robbo and Gakpo plays with Kirkes. Very differing runs from the fullbacks, which, you guys have pointed out as well on a few occasions over the season. Which I don't know, must be under instruction, but certainly we're not getting as many overlapping runs from Milos Kerkez as perhaps we've seen previously, or the more underlapping runs from, they're getting into each other's space, basically. Whereas Robbo doesn't seem to have his license to get forward as much, and almost played kind of as I won't say a wing back because he's not getting that far advanced, but he's almost given more defensive work to do than Kirkes, if that makes sense. Or maybe Kirkes just has a better engine. Tyne said Gakpo is like McAllister and Gravenberch, has no competition for his place, so no pushing. I've said this so many times about our squad, so many times, mate, and it's a frustration of mine that's been here for ages. I don't like no competition. Even if it is a world-class player like Mohamed Salah or Virgil van Dijk, I don't think no competition's healthy. You should have people scared for their starting place in every position. There should be somebody there that if you're not playing well, the manager can give a go to. Now, you can say that there is somebody there on the left-hand side and the manager's choosing not to play him because of his age and the fact that he's still developing, which that's a whole other argument as to whether that's the right or wrong way to go, but it is where we are this season. And honestly, I think that's where a lot of the grief for Gakpo comes from. The club didn't replace Diaz, and we haven't seen young Rio and Gamoa get options. Whereas in the past, when Cody might not have been having a great game, you could bring on Luis Diaz, and it would give us just something different. It's not unfair to call him one-dimensional. He is actually just that. Well, he isn't. He might be lacking in other traits, but he can't just do one thing. I know we talk about cutting in right all the time, but when I say one-dimensional, I mean there's a style of winger. Because he's not that slow. He can go around the outside. But it's something of ours that I've long had a gripe with on that left side. Even when Andy Robertson's playing left back, that checking back inside. I just don't think we use the width of the pitch enough down the left-hand side. And Gakpo can certainly add to that with his cutting in on the right-hand side, but I don't think any player that gets to the level Cody's at for club and country is one-dimensional. Might be lacking in other facets, but I wouldn't call them one-dimensional. It takes time to adapt to new incoming players and vice versa, not to mention slot, unlike Klopp tactics, I feel, for Mo. Do we think that that's why Mo's numbers have been different this year? I think the truth's probably in the middle, that some of it have been a fall off from him, and some of it has been certainly not having Trent at right back and maybe having new faces in and around him. I think in the last couple of games, Mo started to look a bit more in tune with those in and around him. And we got to go back to the point as well that we made in the summer. When we brought in Isak, Wirtz, Ekitike, the whole point of that was to take the goal-scoring burden away from Mohamed Salah so that we wouldn't have to be relying on Mohamed Salah to score 35, 40 goals a year. And right now, Ekitike is our top scorer. So you could say to some extent, job done. But again, it's a tough one to gauge. For me, I do think Mo has regressed a little bit this season, and I think Father Time is catching up with him. That would be, my honest view of it. But for everything you lose with a yard of pace, the mental side of football and the experience side of football gives you something else. But if you're using a wide player, you want that wide player to have pace. And there's been times this season I've seen Mo in foot races with people that I would be expecting him to blitz and he's struggling to get away from them or keep up with them. Paddy Wacker said, I'm putting our identity, if that's what SALAH is calling it, down to too many Dutch players in the squad. We went from a great Premier League team to a Dutch style of football. I absolutely hate the brand of football we play. I hate it. And that's probably 90% of my gripe with Arna is the brand of football we play. The other 10% is the bullshit he comes out with, that self-serving, excuse-making nonsense that I just can't be doing with. But 90% of my gripe is I just don't recognise what I'm looking at. Not that I don't recognise it, I couldn't even explain to you what Liverpool's style is, because I don't think we really have one. Need 5 option in the poll, none of them. Well, you might want to write to YouTube then and tell them we need another option, because 4 is the most they can put in there. But once we get it to 1,000, we'll knock it on the head. So do have a quick vote on it. And absolutely no problem, by the way, you say none of them. Sound no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, we all have our own preferences, and I'm certainly not trying to say that's the definitive list anyway. Jaden, one sec, mate. Let me just get your comment up. Craig, can you discuss why it's so hard for a team to win the brace, the treble, or the quad, even with all the facts, talent, squad depth, academy consistency? Of course. It's a multifaceted answer. So to be able to maintain, to win the Premier League, we know what a grind that is, Jaden. Like, we've seen it with us, and we've seen the toll it took to be that consistent, mentally and physically, over a 38-game season is very difficult. So to be able to do that and then replicate that across other competitions, let's say the Champions League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, it's not unusual to see, a league and a domestic cup. But to win a league and a Premier League together and then maybe add in one of the domestic cups, that takes a bit of luck. It takes a deep squad, takes a bit of luck with injuries, but it also takes such a huge mental toll. It's so different, and the Premier League's so competitive that other clubs might have, I won't say weeks off, but they can certainly rest with the ball in games of football. Whereas in the Premier League, that's not really an option, because it's, everyone's up in your face. It's a very competitive league. And one more thing I would like to add in, Jaden, is you often see the French league, the Spanish league. I'm not really sure about the German, but certainly the French and the Spanish. They will help out their teams in the Premier League or in the Champions League. They will give them league games on a Friday night, or they will give them later games. They try to help them out by giving them the best opportunity. I think, if my memory's right, and if I'm wrong on this, I apologise, but remember when Spurs knocked Ajax out in the semi-final of the Champions League? I'm almost certain Ajax were given a week to prepare for that beforehand, or one of the clubs that were in the latter stages of the Champions League. And the Premier League don't do that. The Premier League don't help out their teams in European competition by arranging fixtures more favourably for them. So that's another reason. Why isn't Elise in this poll? We just don't think it's a realistic option for this summer. Elise would be the number one choice, I would dare say, for most of us. But we're talking about maybe having to go into the market this summer, Shambles, and I just think that there's very, very little chance of getting Elise out of Bayern Munich this summer. Next summer, I think it's way more possible. But if Mo moves this summer, we don't have the grace to be able to go through another season. And I don't want to sit here having conversations with you guys for a whole year saying, well, we didn't bring in somebody because we only want Elise and he's only available in a year. That's another year we're going through having some of the same problems we're talking about this season, with a lack of depth, a lack of competition. So if he was available though, mate, I think all of us, well, most of us would be right there and say he's the number one. He's the guy. Salah is a pro footballer. Many factors went against him, including Diogo's passing. Of course, that's absolutely more than fair. But it's more than that for me. I think Father Time has caught up with him. And I think last season to win the Premier League probably took a lot out of the lads as well. And of course, as you've mentioned, the passing of Diogo obviously cut deep with the guys. 100% understand that. But I don't know. I just think if we were to really say, do you think Salah's the same Salah as he was a year or two ago? I think if we're in an honest conversation here, we say he's not. Because I don't think he is. I don't think he's the same player. I think last year even he overperformed. It's not like he was taking men on last year and zipping past them. He was just a machine with finishing. And this season, I think there's just been a drop off. I mean, mate, if you disagree, no problems. We can chat about that. But for me, I think if I honestly said to you, maybe we were down the pub having a chat, or we were in the chippy waiting for our order, and we were having a chat, and I said to you, well, what do you think, mate? Do you think Salah's is regressing? I think we probably admit to each other, yeah, he is. But then I guess the question is, how much is that regression? Does he still have a lot to offer the team? And most importantly, what does he want to do? Because at this stage of his career, he absolutely deserves the right to guide the last part of his career. How about Kubo for a winger, the Japanese guy? He's not good enough. Kubo's just not good enough. If you even watch at Sociedad, he's in and out. He has some injuries occasionally, but he's just not consistent enough for me. Takefusa Kubo, he's got a really interesting dribbling style. I remember Sai, Liverpool fan from Japan, walking me through before the dribbling style, because he's a huge fan of Japanese football, obviously, and spoke to me about Kubo's very unique style of dribbling. And I won't get into the intricacies of it for you, but it really did open my eyes to how unique he is as a player. But I just don't think he's consistent enough or good enough. And what age? He must be in his mid to late 20s now, Kubo, is he? Right. I want to ask you a question, but I want to get this poll to 1,000. I want to just ask you a question on the manager, because I haven't spoke about him for a few days with regards to how people are feeling, but I want to know now where your head's at with him. So if you could do me a favour and just vote as quickly as you can to get this one up to 1,000 votes, we'll ask a question there about the manager situation, because I want to know where your heads are at with it. Because I'm still as I was, but I'm just trying to be respectful, and I'm trying to be not a negative Nancy and just continuously just pushing my feelings onto you, because I would fire him tomorrow if I had the chance. We're too slow for quick forwards. The ball needs to be put their feet quicker. We need to cross in the ball from the wings more. I don't understand that we're too slow for quick players. I mean, all that takes is a centre back, and we know Virgil has that in him to ping a diag over the top. Or I think maybe is it moving the ball through midfield. Because I don't think we're too. I think we move the ball too slowly now. Yes, but we're doing that without that pace in attack. If you're giving the ball to your pacey winger, well, a lot of the time that's where that pacey winger does their damage. They pick it up, they run at people. It's not very often a pacey winger is going to have much joy getting in behind a low block, as an example, because the space just won't be there. So you want that pace and trickery over 2-3 yards to be explosive. But I really enjoy these chats, folks. So thank you. Honestly, it's lovely, getting so many different opinions and having a good proper chat about it respectfully. It's been really lovely the last couple of nights coming on and chatting with you all. It's the vibe's been cool, and I appreciate it. Even though we don't all agree on everything, it's been nice to just get stuck into it and go back and forth. Craig, I'm firmly in the sack him camp. There's no coming back from here, even if he won the Champions League. Look, I've said it, and I'm on record a few times as saying if he wins the Champions League, I don't think you can sack him. I think it would just be I still think he should be, but I don't think you can at that point. Because I mean, imagine sacking a manager that's won the Premier League in his first season and the Champions League in his second season. I mean, it would be big call, right? I mean, you would have to say that's unprecedented for him to have done that and then fire him. So I guess it comes down to what's the likelihood of him doing it. And I think we're one way or the other, we're going to find out. Because it doesn't look like he's going to be getting his marching orders this season. So I think we're going to have to just see how it unfolds. And I have a feeling we're going to be doing the I told you so conversation in the summer. All of us that have been unhappy with the manager. But it feels like they're going to have to wait to see how much damage is done. You know, how bad it is before. I think definitely the result against Sunderland bought him a little bit more breathing room because that top 4 or 5 spots are still within reach. Itachi, how are you, my friend? Said, for me, the whole next pre-season would be Isak and Ekitike up front with Wirtz and Szoboszlai behind. Build around that. Well, obviously, we know there's no Isak at the World Cup. No Sweden, so he'll get himself a nice break. Ekitike will be away with France, you would imagine, the World Cup squad. So yeah, some of our players, Szoboszlai, Kirkes, they won't be at the World Cup, obviously. So it'll be a chance for some of them to get a proper summer. But yeah, it'll be a very interesting pre-season because any new signings are going to have limited time with the squad. Right, are we there? We need 20 more votes and we're there. 20 more votes. And then we can get on to the one about slot. So how would you like me to word the slot question? Because the way I was going to word it was, if you had the power to sack Slot tomorrow, would you? But I don't know if you want me to word it a different way. Nat said, thank you for being you. Hey, it's the only me I know how to be. But appreciate you, Nat. Thank you. Right, so, this was an interesting poll. Right, so after 1,000 votes, Diamonde is the one who came out on top with 34% of the votes. Bradley Barcola, 25%. Nico Williams, 24%. And Keenan Yildiz, 17%. See, do you think he can save his job is too hypothetical, Nielsen? Because then you're asking what the club wants to do. I want this to be a question about what you want to do, not what can he save it, because he clearly can because the club are still keeping him in a job. So I want the question to be phrased from your perspective. Craig, I know this is Liverpool related, but what do you think is going to happen with Ireland versus Czechia? Troy Parrott do it again. So I'm nervous about the away game against Czechia, and if we win that, I'm more confident in Dublin we could get the job done against Denmark or whomever goes through their playoff. But it'll be a tough game away against Czechia. It's probably a fairly even encounter, but you'd have to say you can't rule anything out for Ireland at the minute with some of the results we've had going away. Obviously beating Hungary and then having a victory over Portugal. So you can't rule anything out at the minute. And it definitely isn't something I thought we'd be talking about as Irish fans a few months ago. Right, so I'm going to write it like this. 1 second. Right, so, okay. One sec. Right, so here's the way I've worded it. If you were in charge, would you fire SALAH, and if so, when? So fire him immediately, fire him in the summer, keep him, or we'll give an unsure option as well, because that's only fair. So fire him immediately, fire him in the summer, keep him, or you're unsure. Tony said Klopp leaving must have been hard on players. Definitely. Definitely. Oh, by the way, did you see Klopp on his cowboy get up today? It's in the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp if you haven't seen it. Looking dapper. Very strange just seeing him with the tash, and no beard. That was really, took a minute to get used to that one, but Kloppo out there living his best life. Blighty said, do you think Mo stays if Slot goes at the end of the season? I don't, mate, and the reason why I don't think he stays is above Slot's head. I think Michael Edwards, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think Michael Edwards wanted to give him a new contract. Now, I don't know Michael Edwards, so whenever I talk about the calculator kid, I'm doing so from a fan perspective, from what I know and have seen. And from what we know and have seen of the calculator kid, he isn't a fan of big contracts for players into their 30s. So I feel like maybe he was left with no real option other than to give him the deal because of how well he played. And it would have been, I think there would have been a backlash, a pretty big backlash from Liverpool fans if Mo was allowed to go after that season. So yeah, that's where my kind of head's at with that one. I think even if Arna goes, it'll be a decision made above his head if Liverpool are open to it or not. I think it would be a Michael Edwards decision. I've been told that the first single from the Low Block is out called Unlucky Set Pieces. Oh, I had great fun with this last night. Even Connor was having a go with it. It's one of my favourite questions of the year so far we've been asked from somebody, which was, if you weren't with us for last night's stream, the question was, what 4 Liverpool players would you put into a band and what instruments would they play? And the answer that I went for was Dominic Szoboszlai is the Pretty Boy lead singer. I would have Hugo Ekitike on drums, Alison Becker on lead guitar, and Virgil on bass. That was my one. And someone else said Milos Kerkez on drums as well, which is another good shout. And somebody said Florian Wirtz on the keyboard, which was great. I could see Mohamed Salah maybe playing the piano. And The Low Block was the name of the band that we came up with as well. But it was one of my favourite questions. More Forever Football said, if I'm in charge, I'm checking who's available first. Yep, that's more than fair, mate. More than fair. We know Alonso's available, and available with no real headache of having to talk to a club to let him go or anything. But what we don't know is what may happen after the World Cup. So what happens with Julian Nagelsmann? We know Thomas Tuchel signed a new deal to stay on with England, so that's a name that any club interested in him can rule out, unless, of course, England do terribly in the World Cup and they fire him, but that's very unlikely. Pochettino could be in the mix for Spurs again, when he leaves his role with the United States. So it's fair enough to say it depends who's available. That's, but we know one of the potential options, Xabi Alonso, is available in there. So yeah, it feels like, also, will you have a better timing to bring in Alonso? Because right now, depending on how this poll goes, it feels most Liverpool fans are still not confident in Arna. So you have a chance now to be getting in Alonso's ear, having a chat with him, feeling him out for a move in. Don't forget Isak on the saxophone. Yep, on the E-saxophone. Craig, do you think the club regrets giving Mo and VVD their new big contract now? Not with Virgil, no. because I think Virgil is probably doing what he should be doing. Maybe not as great as he was last year, but I don't think they'd have too many regrets about that one. On the Salah one, look, behind closed doors, if you got them and you were in a room with them and there was no recording devices and no way to prove what they were going to say, I would say they probably would say yes. Yeah, I think those at the club would probably feel that it hasn't worked out how they would have wanted financially. If this was any other club, Slot would no longer be at Liverpool. For me, it's the strength of the pushback to firing him that I always try to gauge. And the best and most quoted answer to not firing him has been that he won the league. That seems to be a magic wand for some sections in the media and of Liverpool fans to feel like he gets carte blanche to have a season because he won the league last year. I'm not one of those people. I think winning the league is what you should be doing at Liverpool, and it was really brilliant that he did it, and fair fucking play to him. I didn't expect it, but he won the league, and we've gotten worse. And I can't just put it down to a change in personnel. I find it really difficult to look at the players we've brought in and have sympathy that we're going backwards. So for me, no. Winning a league title doesn't give you carte blanche to stay for another year, because you can't excuse everything else that happened. So we won a league title, and that's brilliant. But we went out in the first knockout round of the Champions League. We had an embarrassing FA Cup defeat to Plymouth Argyle, and we lost the League Cup final. So all of those things also happened. And then our form at the end of the season was shocking. And that carried in to this season, where our identity seems non-existent. The brand of football is not really easy on the eye. Set piece wise, we're getting better. I think we have to be honest about that. We are getting better from set pieces. But I'm too far gone, I think, with Slot. I don't really think there's any winning me back around. I think the best thing I could do is, if he stays for another year, is just shut up. Because, no, I'm going to be honest about it. If he stays for another year, I don't know if I'll be here for another year. Because it's been a tough season this season. To see so many Liverpool fans so frustrated, all really down to one man. Because I know the results aren't down to one man, but the frustration and the conversation has all been about Slot. And it's taken its toll on me mentally this season. It really has. It's really fucked up my enjoyment of what I do. Because, I've had difficult times on here where Liverpool aren't playing great and we're having conversations, but so many fans just felt so helpless for so long this season, and it was really, really mentally tough. And it's not just about us not winning the league, because, we've seen that happen many times. It's just, it seemed like everything he said was making situations worse. And I don't know if that's a byproduct of the fact that we're already annoyed and it's just got to that point where you're looking for stuff now to be annoyed about. But I just know with me, I'm too far gone. I just am. And I don't think my critics understand how bad it has to get before I would say fire a manager. Because it's not something I've ever said on this channel in 8 years of doing it. Even when Klopp had poor seasons and poor runs and poor campaigns, never once did I talk about sacking him. But yeah, it took a lot for me to come on here and say sack him. It wasn't an easy thing to just say. I didn't just do it as a throwaway comment. It really took a lot of soul searching to get to the point where I want to say, yeah, fire him. So, questions up. If you're in charge, would you fire Slot, and if so, when? Options are fire him immediately, fire him in the summer, keep him, or unsure. Paul Driscoll said, wrong to fire him, but mutual parting of the ways, that works for me. I wonder if SALAH have been pushed back on with some of the stubbornness or they've already agreed to depart at the end of the season. I mean, look, whatever it is, the wording will be mutual parting of the ways, Paul. But that's never really the case, is it? You know, they tried to pull that stuff recently with De Zerbi and Marseille as well. And it's just not true. You know, there's always one side who wants it more than the other one. And, you know, of course, the manager deserves to be treated respectfully if he is given his marching orders. And like I've said before, he will always be a league title winning manager with Liverpool. That's not going to change. He's earned that place in Liverpool's history. But he just keeps putting his foot in his mouth this season. And it's grinding people down. But here's a question. Is Arne Slot having to deal with the heighty ambitions that we had? So what I mean by that is, we all talked about this season as being a potential era-defining season, where Liverpool are up there to challenge for everything. So are we, as fans, being overly ambitious and being unfair to him, or am I just trying to find a way to make an excuse for him? Because we have to examine that as well to ask, are we as fans being a bit too ambitious of what we expected this season? Or, you know, I'm honestly trying to look at it from every angle to try and see if there is a way that I'm glaringly missing something that justifies him staying in the role. Giant Gift said, only an idiot would fire Slot now. And why is that? Truly, why is that? Again, I'm not trying to say you're right or wrong. I don't like you using the language like only an idiot would fire Slot now, because, well, Manchester United are now currently in the Champions League places because of the actions of firing a manager and bringing in an interim who was able to give them a bounce and get a tune out of them. Chelsea fired a manager, or let a manager go, that won the Club World Cup and the Conference League last year. So I don't know why only an idiot would do it. My whole argument for removing him mid-season would be to bring in somebody who would be able to give the guys a boost and push them on to make sure that it's not a if we get Champions League, but making sure we get Champions League. So I don't think firing him now would be an idiotic move. It would be if you had absolutely nobody to come in as an interim, but I dare say there are options there for that. Eva said no, because any club that brings in Flo and Isak should not be sitting in 6th place in the league, scraping top 4. Gabriel said we should have at least challenged for the league, but maybe he needs one more summer to make the team he envisioned. You see, on that one, that's a big risk, because if you give him one more summer to build the team that he wants to build and it doesn't work, that's 2 hugely expensive windows for a manager who, if he failed, you'd then have to tear it all up again. So you'd want to be quite confident in him staying to start giving him money again in the window. And remember, he also only has 1 year to go on his deal. So you're then getting into the conversation of, are we extending him on top of that? Because he had a chance to build something this summer, and without being rude about it, it doesn't look like we had a bona fide plan of how we wanted this all to go and how everyone was going to play. And, you know, that's been kind of borne out by people being moved all over the place in that position. Paskey said the football hasn't been good enough and there are some really questionable decisions for Slot and the press conferences are embarrassing. However, why hasn't Hughes and Edwards faced difficult questions? That is absolutely more than fair to ask. We've said it on here as well. I would have loved, not that stupid round table, pat on the back, give each other an old thumbs up nonsense. I mean, proper, go into a press conference like he did when Arne was unveiled as manager and answer questions. Because sometimes, yeah, I do feel a little bit of sympathy for Arne in pressers because he's been asked questions that aren't really his to answer. But this is why I kept talking about the lads hiding in the shadows and, you know, briefing stuff but not coming out to face the music. I definitely do understand that Arna has been in some tough positions in press conferences this season. But, you know, not much we as fans can do about that. You know, we can't force Richard Hughes to come out and answer questions. So, you know, you can say that adds to his mystique, but it can add to his mystique in a positive and a negative way. In that, is he being cowardly hiding away, or does he just not think that's part of his role? Because if you look at sporting director as a role, especially with the European model, they are people who come into press conferences and deal with questions. Like if you look at the Bundesliga as an example, you see lots of sporting directors answering questions. So yeah, I think Arne should really only be asked about the things that are his to be asked about, which is, you know, formation, tactics, team selection, stuff like that. The round table was all PR from the club, embarrassing from them. Would love to know why they recorded that video or when they recorded that video. Do you know what would have been good for that round table? If they wanted it to be a bit more of a PR positive. To get in genuine questions from fans online. Like, and I mean proper questions, not what's your favourite fucking, what's your favourite steak? You know, just proper questions. It would have been lovely. Or even if they just did, I don't know, a questions and answer series or something. You know, anything to hear from Richard Hughes. And anything to actually face a bit of scrutiny and some real questions and not the softball pre-prepared nonsense that round table was. It was just bollocks. Yeah, they're not the questions that people want answers to. They waited months to release the video after a win. Yeah, that's look, that was a good win, by the way. Let's be fair about that. That was a good win up at the Stadium of Light, you know. And that's it. I genuinely have tried to give praise where I think it's earned this year. And that win was a good win, as was the 1-0 win away against Inter Milan, as was the 1-0 home win against Arsenal. You know, there were good results this season. But if you look at them, we beat Arsenal because of a Dominic Szoboszlai free kick. We scored against City because of a Dominic Szoboszlai free kick. So I'm struggling this season to figure out how much of this is individual brilliance that have gotten us some good results and how much of it is down to the manager's input. Sometimes I felt like almost thinking the players are like, well, sod this, we're going to do it our way. But when, actually, here's a fairer way to phrase it. I think when Arna's needed to be defensive, he's found a way to be defensive and rigid this season. But he hasn't been able to find the balance as much between that defensive solidity that's needed and the attacking threat at the other end of the pitch. Now, some of the times he's spoken about being unlucky with stuff, and I think there's some truth to that. There has been some things that he's been unlucky with. Injuries aren't really one that I have much sympathy for because he intentionally underutilises his squad, and I think that's going to lead to more injuries. And injuries are supposed to be one of the things that he and Ruben Peters are good at preventing. You know, that was a 90% plus availability rate at Feyenoord, and that was one of the things that was impressive and stood out in Liverpool's recruitment drive. League form is our worst in decades. Oh, look, man, we've gone through so many of the records this season that have been broken for the wrong reason. You've got a lot of things that have happened. We've got an underperforming league campaign on the back of an expenditure that we've not seen before from the club. British transfer record being broken twice, and a summer of, outside of obviously the passing of Diogo, a summer of expectation and happiness from Liverpool fans. You know, won the Premier League and then went out and had the window of our lives as a transfer window. Like, brought in players that I never thought we'd bring in. So all of that, to then hear him talk about players bedding in and excuses, it just doesn't wash. It doesn't wash well. Especially when you see the likes of Sunderland making 13 or 14 new signings. And they're all able to settle in. They're all able to understand their roles. They're all able to do their jobs. So that I found particularly difficult to accept from Arna as not being a coaching issue. On Manchester United, is Carrick the next elite manager? Maybe he's better than Ollie, but is he world class? No, not at all. The reason I said giant gifts, the reason, mate, that I was saying about Carrick and Gerrard as comparables is I don't think either of them are going to be the long-term solutions at the clubs. You know, Michael Carrick's done a good job there, but he's not ready to manage Manchester United, in my opinion. Nor is Steven Gerrard ready or deserving to manage Liverpool. But in the short term, if you were to make an interim role available, I think Steven Gerrard could do a similar job that Michael Carrick has done by getting into the dressing room, getting confidence back up, talking about what it means to play for Liverpool, to wear that badge, the weight of expectation, how to harness the home fans and get them behind you. You know, these kind of things, put a bit of confidence back in Mohamed Salah. They're the type of things that I'm talking about in an interim, and why I don't think it's, as you said, only an idiot would fire him now. Because I don't think United would be where they are now in the league if they hadn't have fired Ruben Amorim. I don't think they'd be up in 4th place and ahead of us in the league table. Love over hate. Love that name, by the way. Well played. Said the football quality across the board hasn't been great this season in the Prem. Our players' form have completely fallen off, and the youngsters are overlooked. Not great right now. I definitely agree with you on the standard of football in the Premier League this year. It's an attritional league is what I would describe it as, but it certainly hasn't been the most free-flowing, attacking, good on the neutral season in the Premier League from that regard. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that one, definitely. Let's talk about Charlie Cresswell for a minute. So this piece here from an outlet called Sports Boom. Look, maybe I'm a boomer here, but I've never heard of them. But either way, they report that Liverpool are plotting an offer worth more than €30 million for England under-21 international Charlie Cresswell after previous bids of €25 million were rejected in January. The Toulouse centre-back remains a key target as Liverpool prepare for a life after Virgil van Dijk, who turns 35 in July. Now, Cresswell's name has definitely been one that has come up over the past year or two with Liverpool. Even when he was at, I don't know, what was he, Leeds before? I can't remember where Cresswell was at. But before he moved over to Toulouse, he was being talked about with Liverpool. He's been talked about since he's been over there. But again, I feel like if we wanted him, we could have went and got him. But we didn't. And the fact that we didn't bring in a centre-back, that, I don't care if it's Arna's fault, if it's Hugh's fault, or if it's the Calculator Kid's fault. We needed a centre-back and we didn't get one. And that was unacceptable from the club. Just flat out unacceptable not to bring in a defender in January. It's just a decision that I just can't get my head around. Carrick got manager of the month for January. Did you know? I didn't, but to be fair, he's he had a brilliant start, didn't he? Look at those results. I mean, he went and beat Arsenal at the Emirates. He went and beat Manchester City. So look, they won 4 games on the bounce there. So nearly enough for a haircut. LFC Spectre said Carrick was awful at Middlesbrough. Now look at Middlesbrough, top of the Championship. Yeah, look, I didn't really follow his time at Middlesbrough all that much, to be fair. Just knew he was there. I like Michael Carrick as a footballing fella. Like, I do. I think he's always been an underrated midfielder. I think he's better. Even though he won stuff with United, I don't think he ever really got the credit for the quality of midfielder he was. Brian Box said Cresswell and Schlotterbeck would be good options for the summer. It looks like, well, I say it looks like, that's unfair. There was a report the other day that said Schlotterbeck wants to go to Madrid, and Madrid want him. Actually, here it is here. This from Bill said, rumoured Liverpool target Nico Schlotterbeck's favourite destination if he leaves Dortmund is Madrid. Spanish club is also considering him, and his likely price of 40 to 50 million euro will not be a problem. The player is expected to make a decision in March on whether he renews or not. Craig, do you think Wrexham will get promoted to the Premier League? So the last time I looked at the excuse me, I've got the hiccups. The Championship League table, they were in the last of the playoff spots. So do I think they'll get up? You never know. if they can get into the playoffs, you absolutely never know. I mean, look at Sunderland. So yeah, don't know if they get into the playoffs. Good show. They're not ready for the Premier League. I don't think. I think it would one more season of the Championship would probably be more beneficial to them to get ready to come up to the Prem, because I think they would absolutely be the cannon fodder in the Premier League at the minute, and they'd be going straight back down. Who's the best player to become an elite manager? Also, Zidane would be at the top of my head. Ancelotti was a great player in his day as well, so can't overlook Carlo. But yeah, Zidane would be the one. Pep Guardiola. Well, I mean, would you call Pep elite? He played in the Barcelona side, the one stuff, but I think Zidane's the one that springs to mind anyway. Wirtz is a huge disappointment. I mean, I'll finish a comment, Paul, before I come back to it. The fact that you're all talking about wanting to buy new attacking talent proves that he cost 120 minutes had minimal impact. So, a couple of things there, Paul. First of all, when we're talking about an attacking talent, we're talking about a wide, pacey forward, a winger. And Wirtz is a 10. And to say he's had, what did you say, minimal impact, I think that's unfair. I think if you look at a player who's come from another league into the Premier League at a really young age, there was always going to be a feeling out period where he settles in. And as the weeks and months have gone by, he's gotten better and better, and everything good we do from an attacking standpoint is flowing through him. So I would respectfully disagree with you on that one, Paul, mate. I think he's been very, very good and getting better and better and better. So yeah, I mean, I still think even if he was twice the player he's been, we'd still be talking about another wide player because we need another wide player. But yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely over the moon. We have Florian Wirtz at the club. I think he's an exceptional footballer, and I really just don't understand. I can understand non-Liverpool fans maybe wanting to give him a bit of a boot or trying to undermine us, but for our own fan base, I think, God, man, if you can't see the quality there, I don't know what to say. Piss on. Sorry about the name. Just the way my Irish accent says it sounds, a bit rude. But either way, this is my first donation on YouTube. I'm Noah from Sweden. I don't know how much 65 kroner is in Great British Pounds. How are you? What's your top 3 players you've seen in Liverpool? Well, firstly, Noah, welcome. Thank you, mate. Lovely to have you in. Honestly, don't worry about the conversion rate or anything like that. You've been here with us, bro, and it's an honour to be your first super chat. So thank you for that one. Who's my favourite player I've seen? My top 3 players you've seen in Liverpool? I'm going to say Robbie Fowler, Steven Gerrard, and from a personal preference, Luis Suarez, because I really enjoyed that little brief spell we had with Luis Suarez. So those 3 for me. Robbie Fowler is my all-time favourite Liverpool player. Stevie G is just a god. And I loved Luis Suarez, but I could have easily said Fernando Torres, Mohamed Salah, Alisson Becker, Virgil van Dijk. Could have gone on and on. But yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate you being in with us, Noah. And thank you so much. Always an honour to be somebody's first super chat, mate. So thank you. Giant Gift said Liverpool half rebuilt. To finish the job, we need to get at least one centre back, one winger. Something we must do regardless of the Champions League. I agree, and I would add to what you've said, mate, and say we could probably do with a bit more depth on top of that. So their positions, I think you could argue, we need first 11 positions. So you say centre back, a DM, and a wide player could be right now first 11 players. But I also think we need some more depth across the board. I mean, just look at the some of the benches we've put out this season. You've got young players on there that he's not going to give a minute to. And then you've got Chiesa on there and we know he's getting garbage time. So, yeah, just a little bit more depth as well wouldn't go astray. 60s Red said, City are also interested in Alonso. That's another risk of not moving SALAH on, as we could miss him. Truly, I think Maresca is the most likely one to. They already had 3 meetings. Maresca, I think, admitted to having 3 conversations with Manchester City while he was still at Chelsea. So I feel Maresca is probably the more likely. But you are right, Alonso is a name that's been mentioned there. Here's one for you. If Xabi Alonso took the Man City job, in your head, would that be the end of him ever managing Liverpool? Because it would be for me. As much as that might make me petty, I wouldn't want anybody that's been wrapped up in what I consider to be a team that has potentially got the biggest scandal in English football to come. So I don't want anybody Manchester City related to be coming into Liverpool, particularly a former Liverpool legend making his way in management. I just really wouldn't want him to go to Man City and then to Liverpool. I couldn't be doing with that. LFC Spectre said our squad depth has been bad this season. That's the difference between us and Arsenal. Yeah, but on top of that, he's made his own squad depth worse by ignoring some of the options he has. But you aren't wrong. I do agree. So Ryan said yes, 100% yes at LFC 8092. Nath said yes. Billy Beckner, yes. Alan said yes. Why do I think we have a better chance of winning the Champions League than the FA Cup this season? Not sure, Raz. Not sure. I know they're not comparable to me as 2 trophies. I mean, certainly Champions League one gets my attention. FA Cup one is, I won't say a consolation prize, but it's good because it's a trophy, but it's not one of the big 2. LFC Spectre said, I could see Luis Enrique rocking up at either City or Real Madrid in the summer. Giant Gift said, no, Manchester City is not Manchester United or Everton. No, they're worse. They're worse at the moment. Like, here's the way I look at it, mate. Manchester United, you're right. I wouldn't want the manager managing United and Liverpool. But as a club, as an institution, I have respect for Manchester United. I don't have that same respect for Manchester City. So to me, anybody that goes to Manchester City in this current guise, I don't want anything to do with, really, in all honesty. But that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's the right one. It's just my opinion. I don't think anyone will ever manage both, especially in the near future with them being a new modern rivalry. I mean, somebody asked me the other night, well, is there a world where you would have been happy with Pep Guardiola coming to Liverpool instead of Jurgen Klopp? And it's hard to sit here and say no, because, you know, Jurgen Klopp is God to us, but there'd be no denying that if Pep Guardiola had came in at that time as well, after what he'd done at Manchester, or excuse me, at Bayern Munich and Barcelona, I wouldn't have been really, really, really excited about that as well, because we'd know we were going to get a very exciting brand of football. But it was an interesting thought, because it's not something I ever really gave much thinking time to. But it would have been an interesting one. I don't think he would have come to Liverpool because we wouldn't have had the checkbook that would have been needed. That he's had outside of Barcelona pretty much been, you know, a blank check. PDHYWRD said, I'm a Manchester girl, born at St Mary's, but no, it's unacceptable to go from either Manchester club to Liverpool or vice versa, player or manager, Liverpool fan all the way. Jennifer Ball said, last season pundits constantly lauded our squad depth, especially forwards. We threw that away. I'm just trying to think through the squad, Jennifer, really quickly. Like, I feel like we're 1 light at centre back now, 2 light in the summer. I feel like we're definitely a defensive midfielder of quality short and 1 wide player short. Then we can go into depth, and I think if we added all of them in, you could almost say we're pretty much there with some of the young players. If he actually starts to trust in those young players, like if Nioni continues to progress, if Ngamoa continues to progress and actually be utilised. Again, we have to see what happens with Stefan Bajcetic and his recovery, or a lack of recovery as we've seen so far. So yeah, it would be an interesting one. Like if we brought in, how do I word this? So this season, summer, felt like it was a 1-for-1. One out, one in, and we upgraded it. And I'm wondering, would I fall into the same trap if we did that? Let's say we sold Endo and we brought in Wharton. That's an obvious upgrade. But would we really consider it a depth upgrade? I would say yes. Because I would think Endo wasn't really utilised as an option this season in his preferred role. So having Wharton in there would, in my opinion, be an upgrade to the squad depth because it would allow Gravenberch to be used in another area or to be a covering central defensive midfielder. What width-wise, adding one wouldn't give us enough depth still in wide areas because he would still continue to ignore Chiesa. The goalkeeping department is going to be an interesting one over the next 12 months to see what does happen with Alisson and if the club believe that Mamardashvili is ready to come in to take Alisson's, I was going to say shoes, but gloves is probably a more fitting phrase. Gabriel said, Isak back in light training. He is, absolutely, mate. Good to see him out there on the grass today doing a little bit of ball work. Anthony, next time you want to come in to try and belittle us, can you try to write a sentence we can read, bro? You know? I get it. You want to be that edgy, cool guy to come in and be better than everyone. But if you could try to structure a sentence in a way we could read it before we tell you you're wrong, that would be really helpful, mate. Pasky said, genuine question, Craig. Would you take Hansi Flick? No, I wouldn't. No. I definitely would not take Hansi Flick. And you said, I know he plays a super high line, but I just can't. There's playing a super high line and there's me having a heart attack watching it. No, I couldn't. It's just too bold. It's too risky. It's just too much. It's over the top. I could not be doing with that high line. No way. Jennifer said 10 out, only 6 in the summer, then not playing Endo, Case or Ramsey and Rio, only playing Gomez in an emergency. Very fair point, Jennifer. I didn't actually know the full numbers of 10 out, 6 in, which makes it interesting for sure. Yeah, good point. Definitely something worth giving a bit more consideration to. And on your point, Jennifer, about not utilising some of the other players, I couldn't agree more. Like, I had an argument last year, Jennifer, that, and you were around, so I'm sure you remember it, that it was really frustrating looking at our substitutes bench, knowing that Harvey Elliott and Federico Chiesa were basically just there to make up numbers on the bench because the manager didn't trust them and wasn't going to give them a proper go. And this season, we've got that again, only for now it's with Rio Ngamoa and Federico Chiesa. And then we've had to put an extra goalkeeper on the bench a lot of the time, and it really hasn't looked great. The squad rebuild was, what's the word? Superficial? Maybe is that the word I'm looking for? But again, I find it difficult to be critical of a window where I was buzzing with the window we had. And I still think we're underperforming from that window. What left wing and right wing would you sign to complement Wirtz? Elise and I'm struggling on the left side to complement Wirtz. Let me go about that in a different way. Let's say Ekatike drops into the left channel and Isak goes through the centre to complement Wirtz. Because Rio is going to be at the club and coming through. So if we had Isak fit and available, there could have been times where one of them drifted into the left channel or played off the left. Fofana at Lyon, another potential option. Other left wingers. I mean, Kvaratskhelia is not possible, so no point me talking about him. Yeah, maybe. I know the club certainly have an interest in Barcola. I'm not as much of a Barcola fan as others. I feel he's very wasteful. Actually, while we're talking about weird signings, this report here, LFC Transfer Room posted to say that at Morrick92 said the spotlight could turn on Lloyd Kelly in the summer. Watch out for Premier League giants Chelsea, Liverpool and Spurs who'll be looking for a central defender, and they say his current value is 35 to 43 million. I remember we were linked with Lloyd Kelly when he wasn't he at Bournemouth at the time? And then he went over to Italy. Paul said Williams, Liao on the left. I would take Williams over Liao, but again, the part that was throwing me about the question was the complimenting Wirtz part. Because I could sit here and name you a load of left wingers I like, but I was trying to honestly get somebody that I thought would work hand in glove with Florian Wirtz. Martinelli, no. No, thank you, Elmire. No, thank you, sir. Gordon. See, the reason I think Gordon would be an interesting one is because that would give us the pace then that we don't have with Gakpo. But Gakpo would still give us the finishing that we don't have with Gordon. Or that we wouldn't have with Gordon. So, in a weird way, I actually think that makes sense. Because it gives us the pacey player. I just don't think our attack has enough pace in it at the minute. Hakanzun said every right back is injured in this team. It shows we've got a tactical problem. Do you agree with me? I don't. I mean, I'm struggling to link the two, mate, to be honest with you. I'm not disagreeing on us having a problem with right back injuries. That's clear. But I don't know if a tactical problem is the reason for that. No, I'm not struggling to link those two, to be honest with you. But I can argue with you that we have a problem at right back with injuries, but I'm just struggling to link tactics to being a reason why we've got more injuries. Raz said I would take Kevin Schade from Brentford, very good player. Keenan Yildiz is a show for left wing. And we mentioned Yildiz earlier on as an option. We did 4 players as a possible recruitment for Liverpool in a wide area, and Yildiz finished bottom of the 4 that we voted for. It was Yildiz, Barcola, NICO Williams, and who was the other one we did? Yildiz, Barcola, NICO Williams, and can't remember the other one. It wasn't Elise, but there was one more in there, and Yildiz finished bottom. I saw your topic today is about the young boy from Wolves. Is there any rumours or news linking us with him? Yeah, there is, mate. Let me just grab it for you here now. So this report from Jack Lusby said that Liverpool are interested in Wolves attacking midfielder Matheus Mane. Goes on to say no guarantee of a summer move for the 18-year-old, but the club have a strong relationship with the player's agency. Current players Walidi Lucky and Fola Onanuga both have the same agency, so certainly there's an avenue to open that conversation. But Jack said not one. What's his exact wording again? No guarantee of a summer move for the 18-year-old. Now, look, I've said this previously, and I'm going to stand over it. If I'm representing Matheus Mane, I'm telling him to stay put at Wolves, even if they go into the Championship for another year. Stay there where you're going to get game time, where you made your breakthrough, have one more season, and then move. That's what I would do if I was representing him, or I was, his family or friend, that's what I'd be telling him to do. Stay one more year. Did you see Lee's rant after the draw? Wobble FC. I haven't had a chance to catch up with anything with Lee. I haven't even had a chance to message him. But I can understand why he would be frustrated or ranting. If I was in his shoes, I would probably feel the same. David Coker said, is Salah being sold? So there's a couple of things today, David, that have been in the media. First one from Paul Joyce, and it's Liverpool know of interest from the Saudi Pro League and Mohamed Salah, and they know it's likely to rear its head again in the summer, with Al Ittihad seeking high-profile recruits. Then there was Peter O'Rourke, who said Liverpool are said to be open to letting Mohamed Salah leave this summer, as he'll have just 1 year left on his deal. So there's been a lot of conversation, mate, over the last really week and a half, linking Mo with not just the Saudi Pro League, but Al Ittihad in particular, seemed to be the club most likely. And I think there was a couple of reports suggesting that Mo's camp are more open to the possibility now than they have been in the past. And also, Ronaldo's likely to be leaving, so they're going to need that new superstar player for the Saudi Pro League, and they want to go on another recruitment dive this summer, and Salah could be one of them players. Flo Wirtz said, I personally don't think Elise really complements Wirtz because Elise is more of a creative winger. Can you imagine, though, the little 1-2s, the pass and movement, the little dinks over the top for Elise? That's, imagine Elise giving the ball to Wirtz, moving off from Wirtz, little dink over the top or in around the corner. I think they would complement each other really well. They want Salah to replace Benzema. Yes, Benzema went to Al Hilal, is that right? Which Ronaldo threw his toys out of the pram about. And I think he went and bagged a hat-trick in his first game as well for Al Hilal, if I remember correctly. That means that Darwin Núñez, by the way, this piece here from Romano said yesterday, Darwin Núñez and Pablo Mari are now out of the Al Hilal squad list for the Saudi Pro League, and they will only be available in the Asian Champions League. So you can't even get into the league squad now, Darwin, over there. Has anybody else seen any more on the topic we discussed yesterday about Richard Hughes? So that newspaper over in Saudi said Richard Hughes is on the verge of becoming the new sporting director of Al Hilal. Has anybody seen any more talk about this online, or have any of the journals been discussing it around? Because that's been there a while. Some links to him and Edwards with roles in the Saudi Pro League, and I'd be very surprised if Liverpool were willing to move on a sporting director already, only 2 years into the role. Why would he leave Bayern, guaranteed Champions League every year? Because the Premier League's the best league in the world. That's why. I'm not saying he won't stay at Bayern Munich or the lure of Bayern Munich isn't strong, but the Premier League's the best league in the world. Honestly, my gut feeling would be that Michael Elise will end up in Spain. I think I could see a world where Bayern Munich sell to Real Madrid in the future. Like if they moved on Rodrigo, let's say, and they went and signed Michael Elise to play him on that right side. And I'm sure I read a piece, must be 2 or 3 months ago, saying that he wanted a move to La Liga at some point in his career. Sooner the better for Edwards. That's Liverpool's biggest problem, said Barry Carter. The waste of money over there is unreal. Yep, it is. Like, Ronaldo's getting paid £500,000 a day. A day. £500,000 a day. He's got a staff of 14. He's got a stake in Al Nassr or something. It's absolutely ridiculous, the money that's getting bandied around over there. And again, remember, that's tax-free if you stay there for the 2 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, our poll question is, if you were in charge, would you fire Arne Slot? And if so, when? We've 10 minutes left on tonight's stream, so do vote in it if you haven't. The answers that we have available are fire him immediately, keep him, fire him in the summer, or unsure. Our right back's running 80 metres, but our wing is not running this way. Therefore, injury risk is increasing. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think our right back has been asked to do any more work than they were asked to do in the past. I don't think there's a change of tactic, unless I'm missing something, mate. And I haven't got the data to back it up, so I am working off memory. I just don't think there's been any extra workload on the right back that Trent wouldn't have had. You know, Trent had the ability to get into midfield. He had the ability to go up around the outside. I don't think there's been too much of a change in tactic from the right back position that's increased the workload. And on top of that, the data shows that we're not running as much this year. We were outran by about 8 kilometres by Manchester City in that game. I think I still have the number here to hand from the Man City game. I think it was Sam Maguire who posted about that. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was Simon Brundish. Simon Brundish said Liverpool ran 110 kilometres, Manchester City ran 118, outrun by 8 kilometres. We lost high-speed running, we lost with less sprinting, and we had a week off between those games. Why Trent is injured every season? Most footballers pick up an injury, mate. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I feel like you're getting very defensive back with me, mate. I don't know is the honest answer. I just don't think it's adding to our injuries. Like, we're not asking the right backs to do what the left backs aren't really asked to do. So I just can't make that link, mate, in my head between tactics, like you've said, and injuries. Because individual players are still going to be covering maybe 9.5 to 11 kilometres per game, and I don't have the numbers for the high intensity or explosive runs and stuff like that. So I'm not saying you're 100% wrong, but you know, you asked me a question, I just gave you my opinion on it. I don't think, and I use the word think, that it is adding to it. But like I said, I can't say definitively. But if there was anything showing that the tactics or the style of play was leading to more injuries, I'm sure that's something that they'd address. No, like Eli said, on Copish, Cal outlined how many times we've been outrun by clubs we faced in 2026. It was literally every opponent. That's not great, is it? You know, that's not something that you would ever really have expected from this Liverpool team. You know, especially under Jurgen, where we were the ones that were just grinding teams down and overloading them and just battering them into submission, and certainly wouldn't have expected to see us being outrun by any teams or very few. Running less can help reduce the risk of hamstring injuries. Really? I don't know what to say to that. Running less can help cut the risk of loads of injuries, mate. Pretty much any fucking injury that you want to talk about, running less would lessen the chances of you picking up that injury. Running less likely to break your foot. Running less likely to pull your hamstring. Less likely to hurt your calf. Less likely to twist your knee. Just running less means obviously you have less chance of doing any damage. So, yeah. Thank you for my post responding to if they bring in Mane, who are they going to bench because he's playing the same position as Gakpo and Ngamoa. Again, I don't know if it's one for this summer, Marshall, and my advice to young Mane would be to stay and play another year somewhere. Sorry, at Wolves, apologies, at Wolves. Yeah, I only bring it up because Jack Lusby mentioned the fact that Liverpool and others were having a look at him, and as we should, by the way. You know, any good up and coming player like that, we should be having a look at. Billy said, I remember the 2-0 win against City at the Etihad last year where Szoboszlai collapsed on the floor full time from all the running he did. I want that intensity and passion back this season. Petter said, Craig, do you see winning the FA Cup as a priority at this stage of the season? And when do you look at how everything has unfolded? So, any competition that Liverpool are in, Petter, is a priority for me. Because you're only in 4. Would I be prioritising the FA Cup over the Champions League? No, not at all. But I still want it to be taken seriously. And we have 8 days after the Brighton game tomorrow night till we play Nottingham Forest next Sunday. So there's no reason we aren't able to go strong tomorrow other than the injuries that we have. So certainly I'm not expecting them to put out a team that has us shocked with how many changes there are tomorrow. And like any competition, mate, when you start to get into the later rounds, you want to do well in it. So, FA Cup priority? No. Champions League's priority number 1 for what's remaining this season, but certainly want to be taken seriously. Yeah, I want us to do well in it. Right, we've got about 5 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. So, do keep your comments coming in, and if you haven't voted in our poll yet, please do. If you're joining us a little bit late, I will be doing a news update where I'm going to be taking you through some of the embargo press conference topics as well. So do keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be recording as soon as I finish this stream because the embargo section will be out and I will be able to give you a bit of an update on other things from the presser as well. It's not about how much you run in football, it's about what you're doing the right thing. Exactly. And one good example of that, Barry Carter, is, and I don't know if you played footy growing up, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but one of the things you've probably heard, Barry, is let the ball do the work, right? You know, the ball can go quicker and further than a player can, so let the ball do the work. That's what we were taught as well. Tire out other teams, let the ball do the work. Make them chase you around by knocking the ball around. Let them chase, let them try and press, let them wear themselves out. I don't know if that's still something that's coached these days, but certainly when I was growing up and we were playing footy, let the ball do the work is definitely something that we were taught. Is Salah on his way out then? Couple of reports this week suggesting it's, not only becoming a bit more likely, but that Liverpool are open to it. So this one today from Peter O'Rourke said Liverpool are set to be open to letting Mohamed Salah leave this summer as he'll only have a year left on his deal. And then there was another one from Paul Joyce that said interest in the Saudi Pro League and Salah is likely to rear its head again in the summer with Al Ittihad seeking some high profile recruits. So nobody knows for certain, but I think it's certainly a possibility for the summer. We play 4 cups every season. The muscles are not bearing because we're using fullbacks a lot, but Man City's not. I still don't get what the link you're trying to make, mate. I mean, I've been as forthcoming with my responses as I can be. I don't see how you're linking the way we're playing to injuries at right back. I just don't see that link. And I think if the link was there or it existed, the data boys at the club would have picked up on it and we would have adjusted it accordingly. So I just don't agree with you on that one, but that's okay. We don't have to agree. Our fullback's not a machine. And who said they were? Who said they were? And why is we not getting injuries on the left side then? If we're playing with fullbacks, why is it the right side we're having problems with? Again, like, there's not really much backing up what you're saying with regards to data or even perception of it. Yeah. So I just think you're wrong, and yeah, that's it. It's as simple as that. I don't want to try to be rude about it. I just disagree, mate. No point in doing runs if Gakpo won't pass. That's a fair point as well. Right, look, let's end this poll. So we said, if you were in charge, when would you fire slot, or would you fire slot, and if so, when? So the results were as follows. Man City's playing differently. Right, but we're not Man City. So I still don't know what your point is. Like, the Premier League's a more physical one this year, granted, but we aren't Man City, so what Man City's doing doesn't really have any input to what we're doing. So anyway, the answers were 53% said they'd fire him immediately, 29% said they'd fire him in the summer, 10% were unsure, and 8% said keep him. So what's that? 82% of people wanted to fire him either in the summer or now. So it seems like sentiment hasn't really changed there than on the manager. And thank you, by the way, to everyone that took the time to vote. I really appreciate it. So here's what's going to happen tomorrow, ladies and gents. We will be every man understands loss, not the manager. On that, Hakan, sir, we agree. On that, my friend, we agree. What a lovely way to end the stream tonight, mate. We finally agree on something. So on that one, we can agree. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we will be live from 6:45 for the watch-along of the FA Cup tie against Brighton and Hove Albion. We'll have our match reaction, player ratings video. I think there's a couple of clips from the podcast and stuff coming out tomorrow as well. But look, sincerely, thank you for coming in and having some of your Friday night with me. I really do appreciate your time. And yeah, have a lovely evening, all of you. And I hope to see you tomorrow for the watch along. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, Surfshark, as well, where you can get some fantastic offers by using the code Anfield Agenda at checkout. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow, yeah, look after yourselves.